I meant to make this video a few days ago, but things come up, and between work and life, I also did pump out a bunch more content last few days with recent stories and Calgary Flames, series recap and first round preview here. However, as I was doing that, when I saw the New York Rangers got the first overall pick in the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery, that definitely didn't also give me as much of a hurry there, as I did make a video talking about the placeholder team. The placeholder team won the Phase 1 of the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery there, which definitely sparked a lot of ire, many emotions from hockey fans here, which basically set up that the 8 teams that did not get out of the play-in series of the Stanley Cup Qualifiers would all go into that draw for that first overall pick. They all had the same odds here, which definitely brought some ire, because you got teams like the Ottawa Senators and the Detroit Red Wings definitely had a rougher season, and they slipped down in the draft lottery. However, you got pretty good teams that were allowed to be in the Stanley Cup Qualifier and the play-in series. And then, of course, how 2020, some upsets came in, where we know that Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Toronto, I would say those 3 teams of the 8 teams that did not make it out of the qualifiers, if one of those 3 teams won the first overall draft pick, would really set off a debate, a fiery debate with hockey fans for various reasons. I mean, Edmonton with all the first overall picks that they've gotten based on luck in the lottery and performance on the ice. However, they also recently got Connor McDavid, a generational talent. Pittsburgh would definitely draw some ire, because a few years ago they won their back-to-back Stanley Cups, and the fact that they won a lottery in the year that we did not have a season to bring in Sidney Crosby, which also another generational talent. Well, you could probably say the Toronto Maple Leafs more because of Toronto reasons, being, you'll hear nothing about it since they got knocked out. You'd hear nothing about them winning the draft lottery, but, they spend over $50 million on 4 forwards. Definitely would have made some interesting decisions if the Toronto Maple Leafs won first overall pick, which the consensus is that Alexis Lafreniere is going to be the player that's going to get selected first overall, and we'll go out to the NHL here. However, you also have to say the New York Rangers definitely got also very lucky, as they definitely have built up a young team, and just this last season they also got the second overall pick in Kaapo Kakko, which some consensus say he's going to be having a better career than Jack Hughes with the New Jersey Devils drafted here. So, the New York Rangers definitely won the first overall draft pick, and some would say maybe this is what the NHL wanted, and some conspiracists would say is because, New York is one of the bigger markets, their biggest market in North America, and you got the New York Rangers, the original 6 team, and the fact they're building up, and who knows, I mean, they definitely look pretty good there going down the stretch. It still seems unfair how Ottawa and Detroit still missed out and dropped down. I mean, Ottawa had a couple of chances at the number 1 pick, and same Detroit. However, Detroit should also remember in 1984, they drafted 4th overall, and they drafted this Steve Yzerman guy. You might have heard of him, understand he's a big legend in Detroit, and now he is the general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, but the draft lottery's in for to discourage tanking, because one team you could say really and famously tanked really bad was the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1985, where there was Mario Lemieux, who definitely was a generational talent and definitely was amazing to get it, but Pittsburgh still had to wait a couple years to build up their team after trying so hard to tank to eventually win a few Stanley Cups. But that's what the draft lottery is, so they can bring integrity. Because if you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins leading up into the draft there, I know that I always keep bringing up my main inspiration for making videos is the hockey guy. He broke down that Pittsburgh Penguins season where they tried really hard to tank to get Marlon because it used to be that if you get the last overall pick, you're automatically guaranteed the first overall pick, and that's why the draft lottery came in. And then I know other rules they had was if you were in the bottom 5, whoever wins the lottery moves up 5 spots, where if you're in the bottom 5, you have a shot at number 1 pick, which you could say that probably was the, I don't know if you say that's the fairest system. And then they changed it where it's weighted based on where you finished out of the playoffs, where obviously if you finish last in the league, you have the best odds, but even then your odds of getting it was still less than 50%. But you could still potentially have a team that just finished out that could move up in the top 3. And then, I mean, this year, given, what has happened, that's why they had the placeholder team. Some would also say that if the placeholder team was based on the reverse order of the team standings, I think I understand Winnipeg was that placeholder team based on where equivalent are in the standings, because if the playoffs didn't happen, and actually thankfully they haven't, best number that I've also seen so far in the playoffs is 0, as in there's been no cases of COVID during this whole time, and that's after, the playing series with everybody in the bubble. So definitely was very interesting, but the New York Rangers got the first round pick. And what do you think about Alexis Lafreniere going to the New York Rangers to fit in with their team? Lauri Kapako, Max Zuccarello, and then Antti Panarin, and they got Adam Fox on the blue line, which I know we drafted, but he didn't want to play here, but we were able to get assets out of it. So now, with the New York Rangers getting the first overall pick, how the draft order works now that at least we know the teams that were out of the playoffs have gotten their selections here. Well, the first overall pick goes to the New York Rangers. Second overall pick goes to the Los Angeles Kings. They were ultimately the big winners in the phase 1 of the draft lottery as they moved up to the second overall there. You could say the 2 biggest markets get to pick 1 and 2 in the NHL Entry Draft. 2014 was the year that you could some say the NHL had their dream Stanley Cup final with the Los Angeles Kings and New York Rangers there, so it was interesting they got 1 and 2. I mean, phase 2 was needed when a placeholder team knew was in the top 3 where they needed this phase 2, which ultimately that's what this is. And the number 3 is the Ottawa Senators, and that was their pick that they got in the Erik Karlsson trade. And then Detroit slips to number 4. And then Ottawa's own pick is number 5. Anaheim's pick is number 6. New Jersey is number 7, and then Buffalo is number 8. That was the order that was already determined from phase 1 before knowing the placeholder team. Then the Minnesota Wild, they are going to pick 9th. Then the Winnipeg Jets are going to pick 10th here. Nashville Predators are going to pick 11th here. Then the Florida Panthers pick 12th here. And then the Carolina Hurricanes pick 13th here, even though the Carolina Hurricanes actually was the team that knocked out the New York Rangers. That pick that the Carolina Hurricanes have was converted from the Toronto Maple Leafs, because the Toronto Maple Leafs traded Patrick Marleau to the Carolina Hurricanes so they could buy out his contract for that first round pick. So the first round pick was lottery protected top 10, and since Toronto didn't get it, that pick is now going to Carolina. So it's still a pretty steep price for Toronto to pay just so they can buy out the contract. And then number 14 is the Edmonton Oilers, and then number 15 is the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that pick was still in play, but the Pittsburgh Penguins are electing to keep that pick because that pick was in play from the Zeiss and Zucker trade with the Minnesota Wild there. So the Pittsburgh Penguins will elect to keep it this year and defer it to next year for a first round pick for the Minnesota Wild. And based on Pittsburgh maybe potentially slowing down, that's what this sign shows within the play-in series. That who knows, maybe the Minnesota Wild could get a pretty good first round pick if Pittsburgh happens to miss the playoffs in 2021 year. So yeah, that's at least we know the first 15 picks in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft after the Phase 2 Draft Lottery. That also was barring any other moves that could happen between now and then, which the NHL Entry Draft will happen, as I know it would be scheduled, on October 9th and 10th, which is Thanksgiving weekend in Canada. So yeah, this is the second time the New York Rangers will get the first overall pick here, as I'll look on their page here quickly that the team that who they drafted first overall the other time was in 1965. The New York Rangers drafted first overall. They drafted Andre Valou. So definitely Alexis Lafreniere. We're going to assume that he's going to be the first overall pick, the consensus first overall pick, who played at the Oceanic in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League there, which is the same team that Sidney Crosby played on. But in the last couple of years, I mean, the New York Rangers definitely picked up some talent in the first round here. I mean, in 2017, after not having a first round pick in 13, 14, 15, 16, 2017 they drafted Lance Anderson 7th overall and Philip Chittle 21st overall, and then in 2018 they had 3 picks: Vitaly Kravtsov, number 9, DeAndre Miller, and Nicholas Sundqvist, 22nd and 28th here, and then last year Kapokako, 2019. However, it's going to be interesting to find out what number that Alexis Lafreniere is going to play from the Rimouski Oceanic. That team slipped my mind what city it was, so it's Rimouski Oceanic that Alexis Lafreniere wore number 11. However, I think it's going to be tough for him to wear number 11 for the New York Rangers because it's honored by 2 players. Well, left winger and Vic Hadfield, who played from 1959 to 1974, and then this Mark Messier guy, the center. You might have heard of him. He played from 1991 to 97 and 2000 to 2004. Yeah, I don't think he's going to wear number 11 for the New York Rangers, especially with that Mark Messier. So that's all I have for the NHL Draft Lottery. It definitely, you could say the NHL could have gotten a lot more shots at him if, I would say, the Edmonton Oilers, Pittsburgh Penguins, or the Toronto Maple Leafs got the first overall pick, but the New York Rangers definitely have the lucky horseshoe, as they've been building up a pretty good team, and who knows where they're going to go with in the future of their net there. And then, other teams that, could have used Alexis Lafreniere. I mean, could have been Minnesota or Nashville, just so they can boost up their team, or Nashville, because they've been all about defense, and also, could Winnipeg. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's just a lot of possibilities, and then there's other conspiracies that, some thought that the ball was heavy. Well, I know Roberto Longo tweeted out when the guy was loading the balls in. I think how it got their conspiracy about being heavy is that it got dropped too early as they were showing the logos in the camera there. But here's this question: if the ball was actually heavier, it wouldn't have been the ball that got sucked up to reveal the New York Rangers. And then there were some close-ups that Toronto was this close, but the Minnesota Wild ball knocked it out, so that the New York Rangers came up in the middle, split the middle, and split the D, and got the first overall pick here. So that's all I got to talk about the draft lottery here. So anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fan journey, home the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also do Calgary Sports on my channel here, when I felt I had to make a follow-up video to the NHL Draft Lottery after I made my first video about the placeholder team. So yeah, it's my take on the New York Rangers. I also do the personal blogs, Attempt to Comedy. I also do share my experience on the road to a sport event here. So if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, do follow along with this Calgary sports fan journey. You know what you need to do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there. And before I close out here, and one of the reasons that the Pittsburgh Penguins was in this draft lottery, because the Montreal Canadiens pulled off the upset in their playing series. However, gotta give, as a hockey fan, gotta give my best wishes to head coach Claude Julien, as after Game 1 in the first round, official first round, of the Philadelphia Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens. It's definitely going to be an interesting storyline depending on how the series plays out, but Claude Julien definitely had chest pains after that game and was rushed to hospital. Wound up having a cardio procedure. That's definitely one of the symptoms of potentially heart failure. So he's now resting at home, at his Montreal home, after getting treatment in the hospital. So Kirk Muller is taking over as head coach on an interim basis for the Montreal Canadiens. So I just got to give best wishes to head coach Claude Julien. Definitely has carved himself a great career mostly with the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens, and definitely looks like quite a character. And obviously he was the head coach of the Boston Bruins when they won the Stanley Cup in 2011, and this was the second tour of duty of the Montreal Canadiens. So I just want to put that out here before I say I'll see you in the next video.